it's more about kind of producing a good singing translation is often more about having a feeling for the shape of a musical melody, even if you can't read that melody, having a feeling for the shape and the emphases of English. I'm going to say English from now on. I'm quite aware that some people might want to translate into other languages, but just for a shorthand, I'm going to say English. In previous workshops here, we have people translating into Chinese, and a workshop I did a month ago in Leeds, they translated into Italian. But I'm going to talk about translating into English, but if when it comes to it, you'd rather translate into some other language, then that would be great. Yes, I think in a way Francis has filled in the background, so I'm very lucky in my profession in opera that I'm dealing with music and with language, and which in a way were the two great interests that I had as a young person. In the opera rehearsal every day you're dealing with both those elements. What's the language mean, what's the music mean, how do we put both those over? And then a few years ago I was asked by English National Opera, who perform all their operas in English, to translate a Russian opera into English in singing form, a singing translation of that. And thereafter a couple of other things followed, other operas followed, and as Francis said, there are also some published volumes. I don't get a royalty, but I'll put in a plug for them anyway. Russian opera arias, published by Peters. There's some volumes there where the singing translations in most of those volumes are by me. But let's crack on. Before we get on to specifics, I think just raising the question, why would we perform opera in translation? You know, why would we perform it in English, and why would we not do it in the original language? And there are basically two schools of thought that have gone down the ages in the history of opera. One is that you should leave it in the original language, because that's the sound that the composer imagines. So in a sense, if you're removing those words from it, you're also removing something from the music. So sing it in the original language if possible. The other school of thought is, no, translate it into the language of the audience, because the audience then has a much more direct contact with the drama and the dramatic content of the piece. You know, if we perform Chekhov or Molière in this country, we tend not to perform in Russian or in French. So why do we perform Italian opera in Italian? You know, opera is also a form of drama. So that's a huge discussion, but actually, in a sense, it's just kind of sketching that out, because it's about different attitudes to opera, and opera over the years has had this constant dialogue about what is more important, the music or the words, and that feeds into this debate. I mean, fashions have actually gone to and fro. In the 19th century, it's quite interesting. On the whole, composers expected their operas to be translated into the language of the country it was being performed in. So, Verdi, for instance, Verdi's Macbeth, the first production of that was in Italy. The second production of it, a few years later, was in Paris. And as a matter of course, for the Parisian audience, it was translated into French. And we have correspondence from Verdi where he actually makes suggestions about the French, because his French was quite good, but he doesn't question the idea that it should be translated into French. Wagner, the other kind of huge figure in the middle of the 19th century of European opera, there's a great letter from him. He heard that his Lohengrin was going to be performed in Australia, actually Melbourne, Australia, and there's a letter from him to the theatre director there. My very dear sir, I was delighted to receive your news and cannot refrain from thanking you for it. I hope you will see to it that my works are performed in English. Only in this way can they be intimately understood by an English-speaking audience. We are hoping that they will be so performed in London. So here are two major figures in the 19th century actually saying, perform it in your language, don't necessarily perform it in mine, because you'll get more out of it that way. And that debate continues to this day, and in a way it's embodied by the two great opera companies in London. There's the Royal Opera House, Covent Garden, which, as a matter of principle, performs everything in the original language. There's English National Opera down the road, which, as a matter of principle, performs everything in English. So that continues. The company I work for, Opera North, we actually have a very unfixed policy on that. We decide to do some things in the original and some things in translation. It's interesting, I was trotting off what we're doing this season. We're doing 10 operas this season. Actually, most of them, 9 of them are in the original language, but 2 of them were written in English anyway. That's Trial by Jury and Trouble in Tahiti. And we're actually only doing one opera in translation, which was we did in the autumn, Janacek's Osud, which we did in English translated from the Czech. But that's a rare year where we're actually doing so much in the original. So this time last year we were doing 3 operas. One was a Rossini opera, which we did do in Italian. One was the Humperdinck Hansel and Gretel, which we did in English. And one was a Russian opera by Rimsky-Korsakov called Snow Maiden, which we did in English in translation. So it mixes around. I said in the 19th century the trend was to do it in translation. I think that's changed quite a lot in our day. If anything, the trend's gone very strongly in the other direction now, that many more companies do things in the original language. I think there's several reasons for that. One is the growth of the recording industry. For most of us, when we first experience an opera, we don't have to experience it in the theatre. We experience it by listening to a recording of it. And those recordings tend to be in the original language. So we tend to go into the theatre then, kind of expecting to reproduce that musical experience that we've had. Opera has become a very international business, so opera singers fly around the world, flying all over the place. They, on the whole, are not going to want to learn lots of different translations for lots of different countries, so they are going to want to learn it in the original language. If you're singing Carmen tonight in Buenos Aires and next week in London, you don't want to be doing it in 2 different languages. You want to just do it in French, which is the original language. But probably most importantly, recently, the invention of surtitles. Those of you who go to the opera will know that almost all companies now put surtitles, which are a translation of the sung text up above the stage. So you can, in a sense, you can have your cake and eat it. You can hear the original language, but you can have a running translation going of it. I personally think that surtitles are not a complete answer, because I think you lose a certain number of things, particularly in comic operas, for instance, where actually a lot of comedy is to do with the specific timing of the line or of the gesture, but particularly of the line. So you can sit in an opera house where if I know it quite well, sometimes, I'm sitting in an Italian opera and hearing people laugh, and I'm kind of looking around the stage saying, oh, is there some sight gag I missed? But what's happened is that the line that's about to be sung has already come up on the surtitle. So the audience are laughing at that before the line has even been delivered, which you could argue is actually a slight distortion of the whole psychology of the process. Big discussion, I'm not going to dwell on that, but that just, I'm aware of that. There is still a demand for opera translations, though, so let's get on to that. And what makes a good opera translation, if I would put it in a nutshell, is that it should sound as if the music was written for those words. It should feel natural. It should never feel like a translation, like something that's been kind of shoehorned onto that. Now, those qualities, of course, are equally true if you translate a song. So if you translate a Schubert song and sing it in English, you want that quality as well. You want that quality of the words sitting well on the music. The additional element, or one additional element in opera, though, is that operatic music comes out of the mouth of a character. And so for my money, one of the things you should strive to when you do an opera translation is to make the language true to that character, in the same that you would do if you were translating a spoken play. So we all speak differently according to our characters. So the posh person speaks differently from the non-posh person. The confident person speaks differently from the non-confident person, things like that. Those subtleties of language. So I think we should try not to put language into the mouth of a character that actually doesn't belong with that character. So what we're going to do in this workshop, we're going to look at 2 different arias from Mozart's The Marriage of Figaro, they're not said Figaro, and 2 quick, now how do I get this to, hang on, that probably does it, exactly, right, this is, just quick hands up, who knows that, who's kind of acquainted with The Marriage of Figaro, yeah? That's fine. Just a quick rundown of the story. It's set in a kind of stately home in Spain originally, but the crucial thing is actually the kind of social distinctions between the characters. There's the Count, who's the posh-looking guy at the back in this production. There is Figaro on the left, the title character, who is a kind of valet, he's a kind of servant to the Count. There's Susanna, who's the maid to the Count's wife, the Countess. And this one misleading is a boy on the right. This is Cherubino, who's a kind of teenage boy played by a mezzo-soprano in a so-called trouser role. So just quickly do that. Now the first aria we're going to do is one of Figaro's arias, and I wonder, Patrick, whether you could just quickly, it's the one that's called, it begins with the word "se vuol ballare" in the Italian, it's on one side of your sheet there. Can you just give a quick idea? I said Figaro is the servant, it's the Count's servant, but what's the actual specific situation in which he sings this aria?
So just before this aria, Figaro has discovered that the Count is actually interested in his fiancée, Susanna. So throughout this aria, he's basically saying, "I know what you're up to, Mr. Little Count," being quite, kind of taking the mickey out of him almost, and saying he's onto him. Yeah.
Good. Should we sing it? You've got a little translation there. So. I talked about kind of knowing who the character is. It's also important, actually, I think, to know what the dramatic context is. Which Patrick explained excellently there, because in that particular aria, it seems to me there's a kind of whole subtext going on of anger and sarcasm, which is not necessarily directly expressed in the words. If you look at those words, the beginning words, they could actually be quite friendly, but in the context, it's actually clear that they're very, very sarcastically meant. And you probably notice in a way there are two bits of music in that aria. There's this kind of slow one, which for me is quite kind of sarcastic and very kind of jabbing like that. And then there's a quick one where the anger becomes in a way much more explicit and says, I'll get you, I'll get you. So when we're translating, when we're putting words now, English words, into Figaro's mouth, I think we do need to know those things. So what we need to know is what the words literally mean. In a funny way, that's almost the easy bit. We need to know who the character is who's singing them, and we need to know the dramatic context in which he's singing those things, if we're taking an aria out of context. And we're going to look at this process in a few other people. So this is a piece that's been around since 1786. So you can imagine there have actually been quite a few English translations of it. And we're going to sing some of those. Patrick will sing extracts from those, and then we can maybe discuss them. But just before we do that, just a couple of more general thoughts. One is that I'm going to ask Patrick to sing these translations, but I'm going to leave that screen blank up there. Because one of the really important things for me about opera translation is it's not designed to be read. It's not even designed to be spoken, it is designed to be sung. So the way you need to receive it is as a piece of singing, within a drama and all the other things I said, but as a piece of singing. If you're at all interested, you know, if ever you want to write a musical play or something like that, so that was the translation of what we just did, but you've also got that on your sheet there, just reminding you what that is. I would recommend this book, Stephen Sondheim, best known nowadays for pieces where he writes the words and the music, and Sweeney Todd, Into the Woods, Assassins, those things. But at the beginning of his career, as you may know, he wrote lyrics for other composers. So most famously, he wrote the lyrics for West Side Story for Leonard Bernstein. He wrote wonderful lyrics for a show called Gypsy by Jules Stein. As a Broadway lyricist, Sondheim was presented with, in a sense, something that's not unlike what we're presented with as opera translators, in that he was told who the character was, he was told who the situation was, the tune had possibly already been written. That's the way Broadway worked, and to a certain extent still does work. The lyricist would be presented with a tune, create words for this tune that actually fit the character, that fit the thing. This is a collection of his lyrics, which he himself says, actually in the preface, is a ludicrous thing to do, because they are lyrics written down, which is exactly how they should not be received. But what is very interesting is he writes little essays around it about how what good practice is in lyric writing, how to write good lyrics for the musical theatre. And he has a lot of interesting things to say, which I'm pleased to say overlap quite a lot with what I just been saying. So theatre lyrics are not written to be read, but to be sung, and sung as parts of a larger structure, in particular musicals, for us read operas, by individual characters in specific situations. Lyrics, even poetic ones, are not poems. Poems are written to be read silently or aloud, not sung. Some lyrics, awash with florid imagery, present themselves as poetry, but music only underscores the self-consciousness of the effort. So he's saying, actually, don't write a complicated poem on the page that, when we add music to, will then be a kind of information overload. In theatrical fact, it is usually the plainer and flatter lyric that soars poetically when infused with music. The lyric that he actually quotes as a good example of that, I can't remember, yes, I have it up there. This is the opening of Oklahoma, lyrics by Oscar Hammerstein. On the page, actually a not particularly interesting poem. Attached to a wonderful tune by Richard Rodgers, it is a really rather wonderful song. So that is his model. He gives a couple of, go to the book if you're interested, he gives a couple of examples of the opposite, you know, where lyricists have kind of tried to be too clever. So I think that's another important thing for us to bear in mind when we're writing stuff to be sung. Keep it simple, keep it clear. Let's just try a couple of these translations that we've got. So this is the same aria you just heard, but this is now in an English translation by, I'll just find it in here, Patrick. Yeah, let's just sing the beginning of the McFarlane translation. Let's make sure we all listen rather than read.
And so my Lord would fain dance a measure, and so my Lord would fain dance a measure, dance at your pleasure to my guitar, dance at your pleasure to my guitar, sir, to
from 1878, which immediately answers another question, which is why do we keep retranslating these operas? That's because translations date. Okay, so we have a language in that which to our ears feels very archaic, and therefore, in a way, fails to do its job of actually putting over what he's singing about. You know, I think you probably, occasionally, though he sings brilliantly, clearly, occasionally I can imagine, what? You know, will you befool me? You know, what are we talking about here? Are you for capers? Sounds like an menu choice. Let's try a bit of the quick bit of this translation. See how you get on with this. Again, I'm not going to put the text up there yet until Patrick's sung it. This is presto.
Craftily hiding, actively doing, my time abiding, while you are moving, guiding for knavery, all spelling war. Craftily hiding, actively doing, my time abiding, while you are moving, guiding for knavery, all spelling war. Guiding for knavery, all spelling war. Guiding for knavery, all spelling war, spelling war, spelling war.
Similar issues there, I think. Possibly even more so, because the text flies by so fast. What he's actually singing is that. But it's very difficult to pick that up, I find. It's absolutely not a comment on his singing. I think it's just you know, for arias, maybe an audience in 1878 was more familiar with that style of language and therefore could go on with it more. Good. Let's do the next one, Patrick. We do the dent one. So I'm going to move roughly chronologically. I've got a couple more here now of that same aria. So this is dent, first section of.
If you are after little amusement, if you are after little amusement, you may go dancing, but I'll play the tune. If you go dancing, I'll play the tune. Yes, I'll play the tune. Yes, I'll play the tune. I'll teach your lordship steps and deportment, your kinds of capers, you'll learn them soon.
We'll stop there anyway. Okay. So we've got capers again. Though I have to say, I find in this context, I understand capers better because we've been talking about new kinds of capers and things like that, and I think you get slightly more idea, but it's still slightly old-fashioned language, isn't it? You know, we are a little bit nearer to our own times, as I said. I think that was 1937, which for a long time was the standard English translation of this, and still gets used in places. It's certainly a little bit more understandable than the previous one. Let's have a go at the presto.
Try to deceive me, I'll do the same thing, to play that game, yes, believe me, I'll put a spoke in your wheel if I can, yes, if I can. Try to deceive me, I'll do the same thing, to play that game, yes, believe me, I'll put a spoke in your wheel if I can, I'll put a spoke in your wheel if I can, I'll put a spoke in your wheel if I can, yes, if I can, yes, if I can.
Good. So, there we go. That's what we're going to get to later. Okay, I don't like that actually. I quite like the, I'll put a spoke in your will, your can, the kind of slanginess of, it's actually quite nice, and to play that game, that's pretty close to modern speech, I find. Good, let's come a little bit closer. I've got one more. We're actually going to look at another aria in a moment. This is more to kind of just get general principles going. So this is a much more recent translation of the same thing. So this is the again.
So little lass, in your dress to go dancing, dressed in your best to go strutting and prancing.
There's a kind of linguistic richness in his translation, which I think it can take, which is actually almost more than the original Italian. So look what he's done with those first two lines. In the Italian, the first two lines are identical. Mozart simply repeats those. What Jeremy has done is he's created lovely kind of internal rhymes. You know, he's obviously read his Sondheim as well, I think. And so, and if you go on down that, you know. He's kind of almost added elements into it. Let's hear his version of the quick music. Yeah, the presto. Let's do the presto.
I will be cunning, slyly deceiving, cutting and running, ducking and weaving. He may be clever, but he's met his match, he's met his match. I will be cunning, slyly deceiving, cutting and running, ducking and weaving. Like a bull when he's scheme he can hatch. He may be clever, but he's met his match. He may be clever, but he's met his match, he's met his match, he's met his match.
Again, very, I think very enjoyable. Now, to a certain extent, I suspect, I mean, I like that one the best. It may be because in some subtle sense it's the one that's closest to our own language, it's closest to what we would expect. If say, we went to see a modern musical, you know, if we went to see a Sondheim, we would expect to have that kind of wordplay going on. So he's inserting it into the Mozart structure, but quite kind of freely. And it's sometimes actually, you know, that's the other thing, you know, it's pretty free translation sometimes, you know, but it does the job. It's not out of character. It is witty, in the way that the Italian is witty, but it's in a way, it's a kind of wittiness that is our modern wittiness. Anyway, let's just go on. I'm going to ask Patrick now to sing Figaro's next aria, which is on the other side of your sheets. Patrick, can you maybe talk about the situation here? So, like, who is singing this one to and why?
So, in this aria, we have Figaro singing to Cherubino. It's just been told he's going to be sent off to war by the Count because he's being caught philandering about the castles and flirting with all the lady folk in the castle.
Yeah.
The Count's not very happy about that because he's been caught just moments earlier with his wife, with the Countess.
With the Countess, yes. The Count even thinks he's like Cherubino's a kind of page boy, he's a teenage boy around the, who's kind of...
Again, Figaro's just kind of sarcastically poking fun.
Exactly, yes. And actually, I think one thing that strikes me is that he's actually kind of singing this in public as well. You know, there's a whole lot of people around. So he's actually just had a quiet word with Cherubino saying, hang around, I've got a plan. But then for public consumption, he sings this thing about, you know, goodbye, goodbye, you know, goodbye to all the fun you were having with the girls around the castle, etc. You're going to have to go off and be a serious adult soldier now. Right, let's go this. You've got your literal translation there. So.
Non potrai farfallone amoroso, non ti torno girando, delle vele comande l'uoso, da ci sento al giro d'amor, delle
Yeah, that's a longer aria. Just to give you a taste, what I'm actually deliberately moving on to another aria, and this is the one I want you to try translating a bit of. I think it's quite, many of you may know that tune basically anyway. Dum, da-dum, dum, da-dum, dum, da-dum, dum. So it's kind of remembering that. We'll sing bits of it to you again. But also, I don't want us to sing too many existing translations, because I think what you often do then is you start simply reproducing. When you're trying to do your own translation, you start reproducing what you hear, and it's more of a challenge in a way to take a fresh blank sheet of paper, but with that music and with that sense of the words. Well, I think we'll just do one. If we just do the McFerrin translation of that. So this is the 1878, the same, the late 19th century translation that we used for the other aria at the start. So we won't do it all because it's sometimes so.
Now your days of philandering are over, and you're spreading from flower to flower. You'll no more as a faithless young rover, play Adonis with each pretty maid. You'll no more as a faithless young rover, play Adonis with each pretty maid. Now put off all thy dainty belongings, cap be plumed and thy jewels and laces, shed thy locks down on need of such graces. Soon these lilies and roses shall fade, soon these lilies and roses shall fade.
Let's have a look at that one. I don't know how you feel. I mean, thoughts there. My feeling was it started very well, and then actually you get into slightly. Sorry, that is the production. That is Figaro teasing Perugino. I had to look up the word jugors. Does anyone know what a jugor is? No, I think it's a piece of jewelry. I mean, it's kind of bling, what we now call bling. Yeah, each pretty maid is a bit old-fashioned. You can do that kind of that's okay. It's more that second stanza I find I have a slight problem with. Why do some go to these and thous? That's another funny thing. Whereas we knew in the first stanza, cap be plumed, the kind of inversion with the adjective after the noun. You know, it's a kind of and jugors and laces, shear thy locks now and give such graces, soon these lilies and roses shall fade. Anyway, just thoughts there. I mean, some of that I have to say is fine, but we get then into kind of vocabulary that just isn't familiar to us any longer. Great. So what I'd like to do now is give you a go. I'm delighted so many people are here. We probably won't have time to try out every translation that's then offered at the end because we've got limited time. But let's see. Those of you who are happy with music, what I've done here is I've done the music of that thing, but with no English in there. You've got a bit of Italian in there. So maybe you can take one of those. Those of you who are not readers of music, that's absolutely fine. I've done extremely primitive, and those who are experts in meters in lyric poetry will forgive me for this, but what I've done is do this. So the rhythm, schematically, I couldn't find proper spondees and dactyls and things, of this, da-da-dee, 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 da, da-da-dee, 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 da, da-da-dee, 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 da, da-da-dee, da-da-dee, da-da-da. And if you want to have a go, you can just do those 4 lines. Some of those lines rhyme with each other. If you want to have a go at rhyming them, you'll notice that some of the other translations rhyme and that the Italian rhymes as well. You've got the individual Italian on your sheet, so you can see that. Also, for those of you who are reading it off music, you'll notice actually repeats those last two lines, text and music. So the last two, the lines 3 and 4 of that stanza actually get repeated. Shall we Shall we just sing? Let's sing the beginning of the aria again, just in Italian, so that people are kind of internalizing the tune, could we, Patrick? So if anyone's haven't listened, so this is the tune again. Listen to him, and this is about trying to internalize that tune. Okay, so.
Non vedrai far favore amoroso, notte giorno decorno girando, delle belle trovando il riposo, non ci sembra il giro d'amor. Delle belle trovando il riposo, non ci sembra il giro d'amor.
And essentially that, the music goes on, but the meter of the poem stays the same for the next stanza. One final tip before you start having a go. I find it very useful to sort out the end of each line before, even if it's not going to rhyme. The end of each line, I'm aware of saying this in front of a very distinguished translator of poetry over here, but actually, and then fill in the rest. So, you know, gosh, here's an end to the years of enjoyment. You go off to gainful employment, or something. Do you know what I mean? But I'm instinctively trying to rhyme it. If you want to rhyme it, it's good fun. So have a go. But in a way, let's just don't get yourself too much in knots about that. I think just try and find a text that basically follows the content of the aria and kind of fits on that rhythm. Let's have a go. And we'll maybe take 10-15 minutes just to do that, and then we'll see what we got. Oh, you don't feel like do more than 4 lines. That's absolutely fine.
Because he's not nasty, he's just like
doesn't even have to write.
BBC teacher.
That's why I have so many problems with trying to get it. People give him a really horrible. He hates me. Easy. She's with me, isn't it? It works. No, we should get it. Put that in for now. Yeah. It's just like an extension of
So then we need to emphasize the fact that he loves himself. Thank you, all that. Let's try that. You think
can't believe that you think you're all that. You don't say it. Yeah, no. That you think you're all that. We've already given the impression that he's the bad. Gosh, words are too long. They are easy. Yeah.
I've got the last bit. So we're going to go on to a song. We're not
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to sing it.
all English, all English.
something else, but really nicer. So you can say.
Should we go for the next one?
You kind of see the idea.
Come back to that. Something like that. Fun
Well, you'd have to have something else. Yeah. So we could do something like that. That's kind of what we need is an influence.
It's easily, it sounds like more technical.
Maybe something like soup.
something really crass, like swipe rice on the phone.
Something like you know
There we go.
Looking forward to this.
It's so hard to fit the words.
Including singing.
What is some? Yeah, isn't it? It's magnified on this.
It's easy to what you can do now. It's hard to do something.
The way you should.
Yes, it does make sense.
Or you make them
Yeah, go for it.
No.
So you won't have any, so you're maybe talking about like you're not going to have any fancy gear. Think of a really like cool like super dry like something that everyone wants to wear. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. I would do a really rude one. Yeah. It ends the same. Yes. Oh, there you go. Yeah. I mean, it's time.
Yeah.
sleeping away around bedrooms.
Oh, yes. You're going to join me.
You are going to join me.
I'll see.
Go for it.
Oh my lord.
Do you think that's it?
How did we not see that?
So you're changing the rhythm.
I think I settled it. Yeah, no, There we go. Shame I can't speak any better.
Good. Because maybe that has been expression perfection. So before we well, as in
oh, in front.
Yeah.
Oh, right. In.
Yes, I need to wind it up in a couple of minutes, so be if you can. You can have a verse, but also try and, it may be good to have a fairly neat one to read, but whatever you can do.
What is this one in relation? So it's
That's yes.
Yeah.
No inflection. Basically, you're going to have to toughen up. You won't toughen it.
we haven't actually used no more. We could say no more.
I'm sure we haven't.
No, we haven't.
What about like a man at the end? Something like a man. Stand up straight. Da da da. You? Act like a man. Act like a man.
Oh, we can.
Yeah, I think.
Oh, we could actually. Now that's worked twice.
Now you do it. Would you decide it?
That's my attempt, if you feel like that's what I
Change your image and act like a man.
Yeah.
And then you can actually repeat the last 2 lines. Good, a couple more minutes, but we need a chance to perform some of these things.
Yeah, we can just repeat that. Great. Done.
Have we got one there? Yeah. Fantastic, Patrick. Yeah.
Patrick, there's one.
Have we got one?
Yeah.
Great.
We decided not to do our
Okay. Carrie. Oh yes, no, we corresponded actually, but we haven't managed to meet. I tried to meet her when we were here with Dr. Okay. All right. Yeah, it's a great exercise. Yeah. That's good. Are you a singer as well? Yeah. Good. Any more? We've got 3 here already. So lovely. We'll sing them anonymously, so you didn't. But you can have your contract. There's a word to say, but we'll probably see who the action moves on. Anyone else got one? Do you have one there? Is it written there, or just out written prose? That's fine.
Just about we'll manage somehow. Expect some actions as well.
Just about.
Yeah, that one mainly.
There's another one for you. Any more? We might get going and sing some of these ones we've got. there's one. Oh, I see. We could even split them up. I could do something. Okay. Shall I? That's that. Yeah. Should we have a go? Let's see how we get on. Okay. Do you want to pick a random one out of there? Yeah, that's fine. Well, yeah. Okay. Okay. Here we go.
Who do you think you are, Casanova? Finally, jewelry and such. Wooing all of the girls you are a rover, but the truth is you're all out of luck. Wooing all of the girls you are a rover, but the truth is you're all out of luck.
Yeah. Right. Next one.
I'll go for this one.
That one's also slightly tricky scanning wise, but good. Okay. So
now you're done with your flirting, you playboy. Not to do any roles in the hay boy. Women as though they are easy. Can't believe you think you're all that. Swiping right on your phone with your finger. That's really the way you should act.
you can actually sing the next. It's the same thing, okay? Or
say goodbye to your lovely mommy. Got no choice, now you're off to the army. It's on the road, calls and through, cuts for you now. Change your image and act like a man. Change your image and act like a man.
Next one. Okay.
Now your days of affection are over. No more wooing for you, little rover. Your career as an amorous lover is concluded, you poor little man. Your career as an amorous lover is concluded, you poor little man.
Is that it? Yes, that one, yeah? That one haven't we done yet? That's a little bit tricky on the do you want to give it a go? Yeah. I'll have a go. Shall I have a go? Okay. So when I see that the sun is shining, then I can feel its lovely warm light. But I still have to wait till it gets darker, so that I can watch the moon tonight. And so on. Nice rhyme. Good. What else have we got?
Yeah, this one looks alright.
Yeah.
No more flirting for you, little master, running round causing scenes of disaster. All the while stealing sleep from your ladies with your nastiest use of love.
You just repeat the last two. Yeah, great. Okay. Was that one? You could do that. Okay.
Give it a go.
Yeah.
Go on now, pack your bags and just clear off. Night and day, smoking away, smoker's cough off. I think this has come far too soon, but you're not going to go around the bend. I think this has come far too soon, but you're not going to go around the rooms.
Very good. Anyone else? Have we missed anyone? So we've done all ones that are here. Anyone wants to hear theirs? Good. I think we'll wind up there. Thank you very much, Steve. Big thank you to Patrick. We have 5 minutes if you've got any questions, or we'll probably want to offer a drink before the stage if anyone wants to come and join us there. But if anyone has any questions at this point, yes.
I've got a question about the acknowledgement of the translators.
Yes.
You know that I work in the 19th century in French history, and for instance, how news travels, or how literature gets transposed, or how any text gets transposed from one country to the other.
Yeah.
There must have been an awful lot of translators around.
I think there were back then, absolutely, yes. I think there was, and musical translators, because actually it's not just opera. I think a lot of things like songs, Schubert songs in this country, I think people would have sung, and in the old editions there tends to be a singing translation in there. I mean, I got, my grandfather, who was born just before, about 1898, and he was a very keen amateur singer and went to a lot of opera. He knew a famous aria by Puccini called Your Tiny Hand is Frozen. He didn't know it as Che Geli la Manina. He knew it as Your Tiny Hand is Frozen. So in a sense, the English title for him as an English singer was the name of the piece. Nowadays, you would actually never hear a singer referring to Your Tiny Hand is Frozen. It was quite interesting because the Opera Society at Leeds just did the Marriage of Figaro, actually, and they did it in an English translation. But it was very interesting to listen to the students. They all referred, as indeed I do now, to that aria as non più andrai. They didn't refer to it, even while they were performing it in English, to an English-speaking audience. There's this perception that the title was an Italian one. But sorry, going back to your point, absolutely, I think the translators for music, I think you must have had a lot of musical translators working through all the way through the 19th century.
So finding trace of them, finding trace of the translators.
So how do you train them?
Finding traces of them,
Oh, I see, yes. I don't know if anyone's really done any work on that. I think that would be very, very interesting. They are named often, that earliest one we did there, that is Natalia McFarren, who translated a lot, and they are published, and her name is properly credited at the front of the score. I think if you go further back in the 19th century, the translator is not credited. It's interesting. You have to go through other archives to find out who did that. Yes?
Do you think the fact that it's gone backwards now and people are perhaps translating a little less has something to do with people trying to keep opera alive? Because my granny adores opera, and she'd never ever refer to any aria in any name in any language other than the one it was written in. And I feel like she finds it such a shame that opera's dying out, and I wonder if she consciously does it as a bit of a kind of trying to keep it as it was and not modernise it and keep it.
But she does it, she thinks of it as Italian.
So she's going to quote Puccini's song, it would be in Italian.
Yes, it's interesting because actually in a sense I feel it's the other way around. The opera as it is done now is increasingly done, La Bohème is increasingly done in Italian, say. So in a way she's tapping into what's happening now. My grandfather, is probably older than your grandfather, actually grew up in an era where all those things were done in English.
I was going to say on that point, was it the reason that Opera North did the Hansel and Gretel in English translation?
Yes.
Because it was Christmas season and you might have children coming.
Exactly. I think that's the idea. I think the idea was to make it more approachable.
That was an approachable thing for a reason, but also an
so that's the kind of decision we make about translation in case to case. It was a slightly strange season because we did the Russian opera in English as well, but we did La Cenerentola the Rossini opera in Italian, although it's a comic opera, actually. I found that decision slightly strange, to be honest, of all those operas to do in English. Actually, I would have said do Cenerentola in English, because it has, you know, as you witnessed there, that direct humour you get when a singer is singing in your language.
Can I just ask?
Yes.
Sorry, from the singer's point of view, it sounds like Italian is so much nicer to sing in. Is that true?
It depends on the piece, really, but the vowels are much easier.
Yeah.
So bel canto singing. So that's what it was kind of designed for.
Right. And I think there's a romantic aspect if you don't speak the language. Like for me, I don't understand it, and so in a way it appeals to me more. You know, there's this great line by D.H. Lawrence that says he prefers things he can't understand by the mind. And it's almost like, because I'm not using my mind, I'm using something else to understand it. It's going through my soul or something. You know, it's a very romantic approach. Do you feel that that's a block to people who are translators? Sometimes they want the romance of the foreignness of it. They don't want it.
Yes, no, there are a couple of interesting phenomena nowadays. There's actually, I sometimes hear, I don't even know what this phenomenon is called, but if I'm in a restaurant with background music or something, I will hear an Italian instrumental piece, or a famous tune that has had Italian words retrospectively added to it. So you're from a Verdi opera or something, which is actually never sung in the opera, but someone has retrospectively put Italian words onto it, which no one outside Italy is probably going to understand, but the sound of Italian is the sound of opera, in the popular perception. So I have a lovely CD of a man called Carlos Gardel, who was the king of Argentinian tango. I don't speak a word of Spanish. I love listening to him sing Spanish. It's fantastic, because he obviously really loves the language. I have no clue what he's singing about, but it's absolutely wonderful. Yeah, sorry, Francis, did you have a...
Well, it was actually a sort of question stroke comment, but it was sort of picking up with what you were just saying, which is, I was wondering if say it's a comic operetta or whatever, is it, it works much better in your language. I saw a couple of Offenbach operettas about a year ago, and it was an absolute hoot. I loved it. It was sung in English.
Yes.
And Sir titles would have
killed it.
Killed the humour.
Yes. No, I agree with you on that. I mean, in a sense, I'm not playing the party line for my opera company, but we tend to do comic operas in English for that very reason. Even a kind of fairly grand comic opera like the Verdi Falstaff, for instance, we actually do it in English, we don't do it in Italian, because there's a lot of verbal humour that goes on there. And the dramatic situation as well.
Can I ask how much you think about the vowel sounds for the singers? I mean, as a singing teacher, obviously when you're looking at a text, there's a nasty wide vowel with a very high note.
Yes.
It's hard for
you have to think about that. You have to think about that, and you have to. So it's very useful. I mean, you're not infallible as a translator, but it is very useful. And sometimes, actually, what is nice, it's actually quite a collaborative exercise. So I translated Yevgeny Onegin for ENO, and I submitted the translation to them. The conductor and the director came back with a few kind of tweaks they wanted to make. That's fair enough. But most useful, actually, was I went to the first 3 days of rehearsals with the singers, and they would say, actually, can we change this because it's awkward? And it's very, very useful. And you have to be prepared to act very collaboratively. Because actually, also, I was talking about the point about the Mozart. Actually, the beginning of Pamina's aria in the Magic Flute. Ich fühl's, es ist fair. And you kind of think, if that had been a translation, we said, no, don't put that vowel up there. Mozart put it up there, I'm not sure there are hard and fast rules. He probably had a singer who was very happy singing that vowel up there, but I know lots of sopranos who are not, particularly. So, yeah. Thank you very much indeed, everyone. Very enjoyable. Lovely translations. Do collect your translations here.
Thank you very much. It was absolutely fascinating and a load of fun.
Thank you, Francis.